Well, hello, and welcome to another practice session. We'd like to do some good old-fashioned checking of separation and holding postures. But let's start with a little warm-up. And what I want to do is open up our shoulder joints and our hip joints, get them moving, and get ready for this work. So the first one I want to talk about it first, is the shoulder rolls. So we do this in a 70-30, where the arm that goes with the front leg is the one that you're going to be moving and opening up. And the deal is your shoulder socket can move a lot. So it can move toward the center line, it can go up, it can turn out, it can reach toward your spine in the back, and it can drop down at the bottom. And we tend to get a little held in there. And what happens is when we start doing these shoulder rolls, people will move their arms thinking that that's doing the shoulder, but I really want you to get your shoulders open up. So the way we do this is in a 70-30, and leave your arm long. This isn't about going down and coming up. That doesn't change your shoulder. It's really about bringing your socket through all of its motions. And what you do with the bottom half of the body is just facilitate that. So you come into your 70-30, it comes up and over as you shift into the back leg, and it turns out. I can do it this way too so that you can see it. And it makes this whole big rotation as you sit into your back leg, and then it drops to the bottom, and you come forward, and you're going to do it again. And then we'll change direction, we'll change sides, we'll do it 50-50 as well as 70-30s, so that we really get the shoulder sockets open and free. Now, of course, we don't move like that in the form, but you want that freedom. So let's get started. 70-30, and the arm that goes with the front leg, let it hang, and manipulate from the shoulder socket, making a nice big circle. Shifting forward and back just to facilitate the motion of which direction your shoulder's moving. Make sure you come toward the center line at both extremes. So in front, it comes toward you, and then it opens up, and then it goes toward the spine in the back, and make sure it finishes the circle down at the bottom. So, keeping it moving. You might hear a little crunching in there. That's okay. It's okay if you don't hear it, but just get as much mobility as you possibly can. And then stay in the back, and we'll reverse it and come forward. So now you're coming up and over as you come to the front, and dropping down as you go to the back. I like to make a little circle that I trace. Not that I'm making the circle with my hands, but that if I'm moving my arm and socket fully, it's going to make a little circle across my thigh. Or maybe it's more of an elliptical shape than an actual circle. But that helps keep the arm long and ensures that the movement is happening in the socket and not just pulling my arm around. Okay, and now let's do the other side. Getting it moving as much as you can in all dimensions. Let it circle up, out, back, and down. And then reverse. Making sure it moves toward your spine in the back, toward your center in the front, up and down. Okay. And now we'll do it both sides together, feet parallel, weight in both feet. So now you'll use your knees to facilitate the motion. So arms both moving toward each other in the back, toward each other in the front. Opening out, going up and down the circle of your socket. Standing up as your arms go up and bending your knees as they come down. And then reverse. Getting as much motion as you can in there. Noticing if you just go straight across the bottom, say, see if you can't let there be a complete rotation happening all the way through. And now you should feel really nice and open in your shoulders. So let's do a similar thing to the hips. Obviously we can't make the same motions with the hips. What we're going to do with the hips is using the 70-30, you're going to, and this is not how we move in the form, you're going to sit onto the back leg, keeping the waist facing front, and then turn toward the rear leg, leaving the front leg behind. You don't want to pull it with you. If you pull it with you, it's going to interfere with the ability to actually open up the joints. So you turn to the side, leaving this leg out here, and then come into the front leg without turning at all, and then you're going to turn toward the front leg. So what you're going to do is keep shift, turn, shift, turn, always turning toward the weighted leg. So let's begin. Sitting onto the back leg, turning toward the back leg, leaving the front leg behind. Come into your front leg and turn toward the front leg, moving away from your back leg. Back, turn, shift, back to the front. So you're separating, shifting and turning so that the motion really happens in the hip joint. Getting those hip joints kind of greased and oiled so that they'll be more free when you do the form. So separating the two, shift, turn, shift, turn. And in particular, make sure that when you are in your back leg, you leave the front leg out there and you turn away from it. And we'll do it once more on this side. And now let's do it on the other side. One of the clues about leaving your leg behind is whether your knee falls in and comes with you. So just let the knee stay a little buoyant, and that will help you keep it from being pulled with you and actually get that extra bit of opening in the hip joint. So you're moving away from the leg, you shift into it, you move toward it. Opening away, shift, moving in. Another way you can know if you're leaving the front leg behind is if your foot rolls. If your foot starts falling in, that means your knee's falling in, that means this isn't staying open. So you can use that as another diagnostic. Get your tripod, your bubbling well, and even as there's no weight in it, you want to keep that feeling of all 3 points staying in contact. And if you lose, say, the outer edge, that's an indication that you're not opening the joint here. Shift and turn, shift and turn. And of course you want your back foot stable as well. But this is the one that tends to get drawn away. When you're on the back leg, you need to make sure that the same thing is happening here. This leg doesn't want to turn. When I turn, it becomes stable. So stable leg, turning over it. Stable leg, turning over it. So if either foot is rolling around, that's an indication that you're not actually using the hip joint to make the motion, and that instead the whole leg is being drawn where you want it to just be a rotation on top of the leg. So we'll do one more round of this. Stable leg that you turn over. Stable leg to turn over. And rest your legs. These are nice things to do a little bit before you do the form. And in particular, this one with the hips can help diagnose places if you're having knee pain. So spend a minute just doing that, reminding your body how to move on top of your leg rather than having, the whole leg. As I sit back, if my whole leg is doing this when I'm turning, then I'm going to eventually have some knee pain. So if you have knee pain, use this to help you strengthen the legs in the way that saves your knees, and at the same time opens up the hip joints and gets them moving. So let's do a form, and then we'll get to work. So you got these nice open shoulders and hips, so let's just have a nice flowing form. And begin. So let's do a little separation and posture holding work. This is the kind of stuff Ben Lowe would always do with us. And we're going to do it starting at the beginning. And you know, Ben would come to town, he'd come for weekends, do a couple of weekends each year for several years, and he'd always start us right at the beginning. And we often didn't even get through the whole first third in the process of the entire weekend, you know, hour after hour after hour, and almost never even made it through the whole first third. And so one time, the first night, one of the students went up to him and said, well, why do we always start at the beginning? We never get anywhere, why, you know? And so he said, okay, tonight we start at the end. And boy, then we all understood why he starts us at the beginning, because the form gets increasingly complicated, and if you can't develop these skills in the basic aspects of it in the first third, then it only gets more difficult to embody it once you're doing the complicated moves at the end. So we're going to start at the beginning. We probably won't finish the whole first third, just like the good old days, but let's see how far we can get. So taking it from the top. Get your feet connected through the tripod so that the weight is dropping through your bubbling well, and your feet are nice and solid and quiet on the ground. Rear crown of the head is suspended as if you're hanging from above. Whole body open, and mind rests in Dantian. So begin. Shift the weight to the right leg, the left leg comes up, and step. No weight. Foot goes down, weightless. Check it, make sure that it's weightless. Then shift the weight. Now all your weight's on your left leg. That means that your right foot is empty. Keeping it empty, turn back to the front. Is it still empty? Now, conscious decision to shift the weight fully to both feet, coming up to an unlocked knee position. Now, when we do this kind of work, it's easy to lose your footing, especially if you're picking your foot up and putting it back down again. So go ahead and get your feet where you want them. And first one. Elbows slide back. Hands come back down. And stand here a moment. This is the first opening posture. Feel that your feet are equally weighted. Chances are you favor one leg. I know I do. See if you can't get the weight evenly distributed through your body so that you're really in the center. Knees are unlocked, but not deeply bent. Elbows are slightly weighted. Hands are light. Fingers are pointing downward toward the ground in front of you. Palms are slightly down and back, pointed back. And next one. All the weight into your left leg. Now remember, we're not going to do any shifting until we've verified that we're actually completely empty before we move on. So at this point here, all your weight's in your left leg, your right foot is completely empty. Shift. As you move toward your right leg, your left leg becomes completely empty. When you check it, don't lift it up. Drop the knee of the empty leg and let the foot come off the ground that way. Let the ball go back down and turn toward the corner. Now, keeping all the weight in your right leg, you're going to take a step to the left. Heel first, no weight. Make sure that you have width. Now begin to shift. And complete the move. Check your feet. How did you do? Get them where you need them to be so that you can hold this posture comfortably. Your left arm is in front of the center of your chest, or the hand is. Bottom hand is like resting on the head of a small child who's standing in front of your right thigh. More weight is in your left leg. Right leg is hanging away, left leg is holding you up. Your waist is square to the front. Body is upright. When we hold postures, let go. Find a way to use less effort. If your shape isn't right, it may cause discomfort. So let that discomfort inform your posture. And next one. More weight to the left. Now your right leg is empty. You're in the corner. Standing completely on your left leg. Your right foot is completely empty. Take a step, giving yourself width. The foot is still empty. Then shift. Sitting down, coming into the front leg, final posture. All the weight is dropping right through to the ground, not getting pulled out in your hips or your shoulders. Let your shoulders drop. Feet are solid on the ground. Waist is square to the front. Breathing and relaxing. And take a break. So you can take a little rest, and I just want to, we've talked about this a lot, but I realized I hadn't said it yet today. So when you check to see if a foot is empty, you're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for show, and we're not here seeing you, so you're really doing it for yourself. If your foot isn't completely empty, say, we're turning into this first. If my foot isn't completely empty, I don't want to do this to pick it up. So picking up the leg is not the goal. The goal is being as fully separated, following all the postures, all the principles as you can be. If it's not fully separated, you want to figure out what's holding you back. And if you distort to pick the foot up, see how I'm throwing my hip out? That might make it easier to pick the foot up, but now I'm not upright anymore. I'm not actually in a good place to do that work. So don't let lifting the foot be the important part. Make it be that you're in a good posture, you're in a good shape, alignment, and then from there you want to see if you can release your leg. And if you pick it up, that's going to disturb everything. Just look for what you can let go of to free it. And it should only move a little bit. If you move it a lot, that means that you're using a lot of unnecessary tension to do that. So use this as a diagnostic, not as the important thing that you're trying to do. Give yourself a chance to figure out what's keeping you. You know, it may be that I'm clenching so much in my butt and hips that I can't really free that leg. And so rather than picking the foot up, I would much rather see if I can't let something go so that the foot becomes closer to being able to pick up. So just wanted to be clear about that. And I think it's probably time for us to switch. This kind of work is demanding. It's very worthwhile. This is what Ben called square form. And if you don't get square form working, then the round form is going to be kind of mushy. So do keep up with this work.
Okay, let's do some more. Pick it up from ward off right, where we left off. Make sure you've got a good 70-30, waist square to the front, appropriate width and length. Right arm has that ward off feeling, full and expansive through the arm. Left hand is between your body and the right hand, making a small horizontal ball of air. When you're standing in these postures, constantly working to relax. You're going to sit down more as time goes on. Don't rise up. Keep sitting down. If you need to stop and take a break, you can stand all the way up out of the posture. But don't just start coming up bit by bit. Sit down when your legs hurt. More weight into the front. Left fingers by right wrist, sitting back, roll back. Left palm up by right elbow, right arm extended. Try to get all the weight out of the front leg so that it can float off the ground with the sheet of paper without disturbing the rest of the body. Continuing to relax. Turn from right corner to left corner, left fingers still by right elbow. This is the end of rollback. Turn more, let the arms swing up. Stop when it's in the rear, when the rear hand is swung up, and check to make sure your right foot is still empty. Let it float. Since we're doing separation work, stay in the back. Turn back towards the front. The hands start coming towards each other. They don't meet yet. Your left palm knows it's going towards your right wrist, and all your weight is still in the back. And then shift into press. Release into the front leg. Let go. Left heart of left palm covers the pulse point on the right wrist. Make sure both wrists are flat. Beautiful ladies' hands. Waist is square to the corner. Square to the front. Waist is square, wherever we're facing. Release down into your legs and through the legs into the ground. Sit back, palms separate, they turn down. Elbows drop into rear root. Since we're separating, stop back here and make sure you can float that front foot off the ground. And let go of any tension. And now shift into push. As if the hands are hanging off of a clothesline, let the elbows drop. Let the wrists be straight. The palms face out, not down. Out. And keep relaxing. Okay, take a break. So the thing about doing this work where we stop at every checkpoint is it gives you a chance to check your shape and correct it. This is part of what we mean by body upright. Upright means that the shape should be correct as well as that your spine should be vertical. The checking the weight is, as Beth said, not for us. We're not in the same room with you. It's for you, and it's a no bullshit way to see if you've really separated or not. It's easy to be back here thinking I've separated, because I've got most of my weight on my back foot. My front foot's barely touching the ground. But when I pick it up, when I pick the front foot up, in order to do this, I'm going to have to move the body. And so things that people do to avoid moving the body is they pick the foot up real quickly and let it drop back down. So when you float that front foot, when you do this and you sit back, make sure that you can hold the foot in the air, not touching the ground. Now, like Beth said, you're not trying to do a big lift. You're trying to just barely have it off the ground. This is what I mean by the width of a sheet of paper underneath there. Just barely off the ground. And I can keep it there. And while you've got it off the ground, introspect and feel what's happening in the leg. You probably tightened muscles in the empty leg in order to pick it up. Ben would say separate empty and full means separate the weight. You got to get that foot off the ground. Separate the muscle. You're only using the muscles in the leg you're standing on. The others need to stay soft. And separate the mind. You've got different feelings and different awareness going on in those two legs. You feel the distinction between empty and full. So we start out with separate the weight, and you do that to really be sure that you're not moving the body, or like Beth said, not distorting in order to pick it up. So you still have to be body upright. We're stopping and give you enough time. Then you need to separate the muscles. You need to really be sure that you didn't tighten that leg to pick it up, but instead it's no different. It's balanced and empty on the ground. It's balanced and empty off the ground. There's no difference. Nothing else changes. I don't tighten my belly. I don't tighten my chest. I don't lean back in order to do it. I don't distort in order to lift it. It's just the same whether the foot is on the ground or the foot is off the ground. Now it'll be different if your foot touched heel first or ball first. So like if I'm doing play guitar, say, when I do this, there's a little bit of root through the heel. So it's going to feel different than when you separate in white crane. When you're in white crane, the foot should just float effortlessly. When you're in play guitar, you're going to have to do a little bit of work to break that root there. We know some people who talk about that posture as being a 90-10, 90% in the back foot, 10% in the front foot. And what I think they're trying to get at there is the connection to the ground through the heel of the front foot, as opposed to in white crane where that foot's ready to kick. That doesn't mean that there's weight in the front foot. So you need to be really clear about that. So do that with me. We'll just do it on the same leg. So standing on the right leg and play guitar. So your front foot is out in front of you and empty. And all of these things, when you're holding postures, sit down, sit down. Don't stand up. As your legs hurt, you may find yourself standing up. No. When you want to stand up, release down and then take a break and shake your leg out and then get back down into it versus standing up. So you're sitting down and feel your front foot, feel the actual connection to the ground through the front heel, and now allow it to float and feel that change when it's on the ground or when it's floating. You should be able to do this without leaning, without having to move your body, none of that stuff. And now change to white crane. I picked these two because it's the same leg. And watch the feeling as you float your front foot off the ground there. Right? So the ball has the meaning of mobility or change. So the foot's ready to change. The heel, back to play guitar, has the meaning of root. So this is the 90-10 in terms of connection to the ground, but of course it's 100-0 in terms of weight. This is actually starting to get you to understand what separate the mind means. How does the foot feel between these two postures? So take a break. So when we're doing this work, really separate. And if the pace we're going at is one where you have to stop and take breaks, if we're here in press and you're finding yourself doing this, then sit down, stand up, shake your legs out, and sit back down. Don't come back to some intermediate thing. Sit back down. If you find yourself taking breaks every 15 seconds, that's okay. Way better than gradually coming up. And every time we stop, check the body. Check that you're not leaning. Check that your belly is relaxed. Try to let go of the legs as much as you can. See where the hands are. In press, it's really easy for the two wrists to get bent, and you don't even see it. And so you take your hands away and you say, oh wait, what happened there? Or maybe the hand drops like this. One line. Middle finger down through to elbow. The other hand, one line, middle finger down through elbow, and it covers the wrist. So don't let the hands do weird things. When we stop and you're checking the postures, actually check. Actually look at what you're doing. So you know this is the feedback process where you get better and better. You understand where you are, you see what the errors are, and you rectify them. Rectify is another translation for the word jung, upright. So you make them upright, you make them correct. So all of those things, whenever we stop, that's what you're working on. Centered, mind and dantian, rectified shapes. The body is correct. So, from ward off right. Start out, rectify your shapes. Square to where you're facing, which apparently this morning I have trouble knowing if that's a wall or a corner, but square. Sitting down, not standing up. Right arm in front of you like a ward off. The wrist is right, correct. Left hand in between the body and the right hand. Hearts of the palms facing each other. Ball of air. Standing here and relaxing, letting everything go. When you want to stand up, sit down. Sink more weight into the front leg as you do that. Left fingers by right wrist. Sit back 100%. Left palm turns up. Left ring finger right by the side of the right elbow. The right arm is long. It didn't come into you. The left palm is up. The left ring finger as if touching the side of the elbow. And all your weight is in the back. You can float that front foot width of a sheet of paper off the ground without shifting the body, and you don't just pick it up and put it back down. You can float it. If you get to the place where it's almost off the ground, that's way better than forcing it up and putting it back down. Now turn to the other corner and relax. Like a meditation. Hold it there a second. Finding tension, letting it go. Checking the shape of the body. Continue. Swing the arm. Stop when the left arm swings up. Check that your front foot is still empty. You can float it off the ground without changing the rest of the body. Sink. Fold the arm. Turn back towards the front. Hands coming towards each other. Weight is still in the back. And now press. Sitting down. Squaring the waist. Check your wrists. Take away the left hand and look at your right. Do you have a straight line from the middle finger down to the elbow? Is the right wrist drooping? Is it cocked? Get it straight. Put your left palm back over the right pulse point and check the left hand. Do you have a straight line from the middle finger down through to the elbow? Is the wrist cocked? While you were doing that, you might have stood up. So sit back down. Continuing to release, letting go of tension. Ben would come around and push us down. So sit down a little further than you were. Make sure there's still a little mobility in the body. Don't sit down to the place where it's closed. But you can probably sit down more than you were. Okay, on to push. Sit back, hands separate, palms turn down, elbows drop into rear root, and your front foot is empty. You can float it width of a sheet of paper off the ground while relaxing. And shift forward into push. Sitting down. This is the main thing Baton did in class. Let's have us hold postures. So when you're holding, it's active. Check your shapes. Check your wrists. Beautiful lady's hand. Straight line from middle finger down to elbow. As if the hands were held from above and the arm is just falling. Waist square to the front. Mind in Dantian. Whole body relaxes. When you want to stand up, sit down. And take a break. Yeah, that time Beth was talking about where Ben had us start at the end of the form. I think we started at the last single whip, did squatting down, step forward, step back, and man, these postures are hard to hold, especially when Ben is coming and pushing you down. So I want to say something about the going down. Maggie has talked about two different kinds of root. One is a structural root, which is when your shape is just exactly right and the weight can drop down through the body and touch the ground. And the other is a functional root that I use to do things like trigger the rebound. The structural root is the place that you want to hold postures in. So do this, take a 70-30 either side. And sit in your normal, comfortable, not too far down place. This isn't either of those. Sit down until you've really reached a functional bottom. And look and see that you've still got a little bounce and move here. There should still be space inside the joints. And now sit down further, and if you sit down even another half inch, something will happen where everything closes, and it's if the ground is in your dantian, and come up just a little bit from that. So that bottom place is the place where you can trigger the rebound. You don't ever spend time there. So when we're holding postures, sit down as deep as you can while still having space inside. And since you're doing this with me, now sit down a little further and feel that place where everything closes. Don't ever spend any time there. Come back up. Come back up just a quarter of an inch till you've got some space inside. This is where you want to stand to hold. And change and do it on the other side. 70-30. Waist square to the front. Normal posture, comfortable, la-di-da, cup of tea. Sit down, really down, but you've still got space and mobility. This is the structural root. Sit down a little further till you feel everything close. It's like the ground has come up to your dantian. That's the bottom. Stand up just a touch from that. In that bottom place, there's no space. Up a little bit, you've still got the bounce and the spring. Don't go below where you have the bounce in the spring. But that's probably deeper down than you're used to standing. So when we're doing this work, go ahead and sit down. Great. Okay, we didn't think we'd make it through the first third. In fact, we didn't make it to single whip. And that's good. That gives you the chance to actually work. So, separate the weight. See y'all soon.